Chapter 3. Blah 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 blah. Getting rid of the intro. Blah 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 blah. Regret. Blah 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 blah. I might put a song in here one time. Because, I did it with that one video at the end. But that was a already attached one, so I guess. Rainbow Dash was laying on a seemingly endless blanket of drifting gray clouds. Gray clouds. I have such trouble saying that. Staring up at countless stars in the sky, her once lustrous blue coat was now faded and gray. Her mane was tangled mess of various colors. Although her appearance was the last thing on her mind, she later on a deep state of depression. She felt as if she had to hide herself from the world, that she was no longer welcome in any pony's life. She peeked through a small hole she made in the clouds to see that she would soon be drifting over Sweet Apple Acres. She quickly patched the hole up and lay back down, looking up at the now slightly brighter sky. The sun was beginning to rise. She watched the stars vanish, one by one, behind the veil of sunlight. She stood up on the clouds, stretched her wings out, let out a long yawn, and quickly, off into the air, she hovered there for a while, examining her surroundings. In the distance just above the horizon, she saw Cloudsdale. In my dreams, I see that place. Silent Hill. Dark. Below her was Sweet Apple Acres, and on the western outskirts of Ponyville was the Ponyville Cemetery. The blanket of clouds she was on would pass above Cloudsdale, so she wasn't worried about any pony spawning her. So she let herself fall back onto the soft pile of clouds and let out a deep sigh. Seeing the cemetery reminded her today marked the 3rd year since Pinkie passed away. A familiar pain filled her stomach. She covered her eyes with her hoofs. Little did her friends know, Rainbow Dash had secretly watching them all this time, even though they had assumed she had ran far, far away. Aww. Rainbow Dash watched them all fight, move away, grow apart. She watched Ponyville deteriorate, and she blamed herself for it all happening entirely. She thought about all the good times she used to share with her friends. She thought about all her dreams and joining the Wonderbolts, and how trivial and childish it all seemed now. Oh, this is messed up. I don't. This is getting kind of sad. This is just depressing. She then started to think about the day it all began. The day that changed the world as she knew it. The day that changed her life. This is. I don't. Why does this story have to be so sad? Come on, Twilight. Don't be such a stick in the mud. Rainbow Dash was hard at working trying to convince Twilight Sparkle to let Pinkie ride in the air balloon so they could watch the construction of the final storm together. Fine. Did she fall? Oh, that's messed up. If she fell, I'm gonna be mad. Fine, but I still think it's too dangerous. Just promise me you'll come back down if it gets too windy. Twilight reluctantly agreed to allow her to go. Don't worry, I mean come back. Come on, look who you're talking to. There's no way I'd let my best friend get hurt. Twilight knew Pinkie would be safe in Rainbow Dash's care, so she decided not to let herself worry too much. Plus, Pinkie wasn't being herself lately due to the fight she had with Rarity the day before. So she thought a day out having fun with Rainbow Dash would do her some good. Alright, let's go, Pink. This is gonna be awesome. I heard the Wonderbolts are going to supervise the construction. Pinkie leapt happily straight into the balloon and fired it up. They took off toward the outskirts of Ponyville. There, they saw the beginning of the construction of the storm. Isn't it awesome? I mean, look at them go! Rainbow couldn't help but admire the speed and precision of the elite storm building crew. This storm was somewhat of a celebration in Cloudsdale. All the Pegasi gathered to watch the most talented storm builders show off their skills. Even Rainbow Dash aspires to be on this crew eventually. Wow, they sure are something, Pinkie said, trying to be as enthusiastic as possible. She was rather bored and was looking forward to spending time with Rainbow Dash more so than watching the construction of some boring old storm. Oh, I know, want to play a game? Not now, Pinkie, this is the best part is starting. Man, everyone is just putting Pinkie down. Suddenly, a dozen Pegasi pushed a circle of huge black storm clouds into the center of the mass. The entire mass of clouds beginning to rotate and blacken as more and more clouds were shoved into the center. It suddenly tripled in size, and lightning reached out to the ground along with fierce winds that exploded from the mass. Pinkie and Rainbow Dash knew in awe as the huge storm continued to grow. Ha! Looks like it's right above Sweet Apple Acres. I sure hope Applejack doesn't get wet, Rainbow Dash jokingly said to Pinkie, nudging her with her elbow. Well, this was fun and all, Rainbow. Do you want to go do something else now? Pinkie asked, hoping to salvage the day as she had such high hopes for. Not yet, Pinkie. Look, I think some pony's coming. It was Spitfire, the Wonderbolts. I thought I recognized you, Rainbow Dash. We could really use someone with your skills like yours over there. Things are starting to get out of control if you haven't noticed. Rainbow had noticed the storm was growing at an unusually high rate. Delighted by the request she had from her idol, she agreed to help out. I've got to go help them, Pinks. It's dangerous for you, though, so you should hurry and go back down now. You're leaving me, thought Pinkie. We're supposed to have a fun day together. You're always blowing me off to hang out with cool friends. Aw. Is she gonna like? This is just terrible. I could handle that kind of stress and like any other person, but I think Pinkie's just gonna go off the deep end and probably just jump off her damn balloon. I'm not teaching you to hang out. I need to go help out with the storm, Rainbow Dash said, trying to convince herself that it was true. She knew she didn't really need to go help, but she didn't want to pass up a chance to show off to the Wonderbolts. Without waiting for Pinkie Pie to argue, she took off with Spitfire extremely quickly, heading straight towards the growing storm. Pinkie, feeling neglected and angry, decided to follow. We're supposed to be spending the day together, Pinkie shouted as she chased after Rainbow Dash in the slow balloon. Rainbow soon arrived at the storm building site. There she met a crew of ponies responsible for make sure everything was going smooth. They began to explain that their new apprentices working in Cloudsdale Weather Factory apparently had accidentally packed the storm clouds too densely, and no one noticed it before the construction. Now the storm was growing about 3 times as larger than they expected. Out of the corner of Rainbow's eye, she caught a glimpse of something pink. It was the balloon, only it was blowing sideways in the strong wind. Horror struck Rainbow as she looked down and saw Pinkie falling her near the ground. She instantly darted toward her, leaving a thick rainbow in trail. She felt her pulse rising rapidly, knowing there's no way to make it up in time. She followed her eyes and tears began falling off her cheeks and mixed with the heavy rain that was now falling. The storm crew gave up on controlling the storm and flew away for shelter. Suddenly there was a sonic rainbow filling the sky with a brilliant rainbow that soon disappeared into the sky. She didn't seem to notice as she flew towards Pinkie, who was now only a few meters from the ground. Rainbow Dash felt a piercing pain fill her chest as she watched Pinkie hit the ground. Her wings began to feel limp and heavy. Her arms, which weren't really arms, were recently stretched out in front of her, which were now dangling in the air as she began to slow down. Although she had slowed down quite a bit, she came crashing down, creating a large cloud of dirt as she rolled across the ground. She lay there for a minute until her blurred vision focused. She then stood up, dirty and covered in a mess of cuts and scrapes. She felt a sharp pain in her left knee as she tried to walk. It was broken. She began to limp towards the dirt-covered pink pony. She leaned over Pinkie's still body. Pinkie, are you okay? Can you get up? Rainbow talked loudly due to the noise of the storm. Pinkie was silent for a few seconds, and she opened one eye to look up at Rainbow Dash. Oh, hey there, Dashy. Are you ready to spend more time Can you help me get up? I can't move. Pinkie coughed up dirt with mixed blood. Rainbow stood there, speechless. I don't know what to do, Rainbow Dash said with tears running down her face. She knew she wouldn't be able to lift or carry Pinkie back in her current state. What do you mean, Dashy? I know. Want to help me bake some delicious treats for every pony? Oh. Pinkie asked, not realizing what she was where she was or what was happening. Her eyes began to drift off as she started to fall asleep. No, Pinky, you can't go. Please don't go. Rainbow yelled at her state of panic. Her voice began to break. I'm sorry, Pinky. I shouldn't have left you. Please, don't leave me. Rainbow pushed her face into Pinky's wet and dirty mane as she cried and continued to catch her breath. Pinky began to speak with her eyes closed. You didn't leave me. You're right here. Pinky seemed as if she was trying to smile. I'm glad you're here. I like it when we're together, Pinky said with a hint of glee in her quiet, broken voice. Rainbow Dash hugged onto Pinky even tighter. I liked it too, Pinky. I promise I'll never leave you alone again, Rainbow cried, desperately holding Pinkie Pie. Thanks, Dashy. I promise too, Pinky said slowly as she drifted off into sleep. A few minutes passed with Rainbow Dash holding Pinkie Pie tightly in her arms. The strong wind and cold let rain causing the rainbow to shiver and jolt. However, Pinky was completely still. Some pony will find us after the storm. Just hold on until then, okay? Rainbow was holding onto Pinky's body in an attempt to keep her warm. She waited for a response, but Pinky didn't say anything. Are you okay? Say something, please. I need to hear that you're okay, Pinky. No response came from Pinky. Rainbow stood up and looked at Pinky's face. It was peaceful despite the ferocious storm raging around them. Rainbow Dash began to breathe heavily again as she started to realize what had happened. The weight of it all came crashing down, and she felt like she was alone. And she was to blame. She alone was to blame for the tragedy. Pinky, you can't leave me. You promised. Rainbow yelled at her, hoping to wake her up, but she knew inside that it wasn't possible. She heard a yell coming from the direction of Ponyville. Rainbow Dash couldn't make out who they were or what they were saying. She looked back down at Pinkie Pie, breathing rapidly. She nuzzled Pinkie's soft face with her nose for a few minutes while she cried. Then she took a few steps back and leaped into the air with her back hoops. She flew straight into the black storm clouds, not looking back. Lightning flashed all around her, but she didn't feel any emotion other than the mourning and loss of her best friend. She closed her eyes and pushed forward as fast as she could. She couldn't face the rest of her friends or anyone else after what had happened. So she kept on flying towards the center of the storm as fast as she could, leaving her tattered life behind. A sonic rain boom exploded behind her. She kept pressing forward, now nearing the center of the massive storm. Just as she reached it, a second rain boom erupted around her with a massive explosion. This one exceptionally larger. It sounded like 1,000 lightning strikes at once and shook all of Equestria. Rainbow Dash stopped for a moment and looked back to see the enormous rainbow rapidly growing and tearing the clouds apart, effectively stopping the storm. She looked at Ponyville, once her home and a place of comfort, now somewhere she could never return. Rainbow Dash brushed the hair out of her face, breathing heavily, tears pouring and her heart broken. She felt completely helpless and alone for the first time in her life. Laying on her back, she snapped out of her daydream and wiped the tears from her face. She peeked through the clouds again and saw Applejack packing up and preparing to head back home after a long day of visiting Pinkie. She wanted so badly to go talk to her. She couldn't work up the courage. She didn't even know where to begin if they saw her to her. She thought Applejack would be furious with her and blame her for everything, for the death of their beloved friend, for the rest of their friendships ending up in shambles. Even for Ponyville slowly turning into a ghost town that it was becoming, it was easier to just stay hidden behind the clouds, alone, for the rest of her life.